So, year two, Daphne Caine, MHK for Garff, is with us. And this time last year, I think it was the first time we actually done an on-camera interview. But since then, you've definitely been more with us, and not to me, but you've been, yeah, that'll do. How's it gone? How was that time since we last talked?
The second year. In a lot of ways, it's like walking through treacle. If I'm honest, I don't think I've achieved as much as I wanted to achieve. Things seem to be slow coming out of government. Things that I want to see, areas I want to see improvement in, not sure that we're there yet. Mailbag still full. Where there's unfairness, there's discontent, and there's a lot of unfairness when it comes, or inconsistency in terms of planning decisions, planning policy, planning applications, enforcement, particularly enforcement, and then in terms of standard of the island, roads, footpaths, for instance, scruffiness generally. But there are signs of improvement, and there's definitely, I'm suddenly thinking that there's a tourism renaissance going on the Isle of Man. There's so much investment in hotels, announcements, the Mount Murray opening, plans put in for Port Erin Marine Biological Station, the Premier Inn is now up to 6 stories, and then we've got, movement. We've got the Casa Mona now with these hoardings around it, and very posh hoardings that we think, maybe some development and restoration might go on there. And then there's the Park Hotel in Ramsey, which is doubling in size. It's all really positive.
And house prices, I suppose, is another one of those things. Did you feel that that's the confidence level, isn't it? The barometer is are the prices going up, or at least steady, or what?
I think at the moment houses seem to be very much in demand. I think at the minute, within a certain level, there seems to be a lot of movement, a lot of properties being sold suddenly, a lot of demand for properties. I see estate agents appealing for rental properties, appealing for family homes to sell. So I think that there are signs the economy, and certainly back into growth according to the latest economic report. There's a lot to celebrate, but things that I wanted to see movement on, rates reform, for instance.
How are you doing on that?
Well, we got to question Minister Thomas at a recent Tynwald sitting before the summer, and there was a statement, but in terms of we don't know where we are with the planning policy. It's not moved. And then when it went over rates, it was, I asked him on rates, what's the point of the local authorities? Is he talking all island sewerage rate, all island water rate, all island leisure rate at one point? And he kept calling it a tax. And I'm saying, I thought, my understanding, local authority rates are for services provided at local authority level. And also, I think we want that element of local authority input into early stage planning, and also maintaining the footpaths, the gullies, etc.
You were keen on stealth taxes last time round, about this creep thing. What have you found over the last year? Still this going on?
Oh, I've got a lot of discontent over the hike in vehicle tax and in certain levels.
Yeah, that's really quite crazy, isn't it?
That didn't get sorted out this year. The Minister Harmer for DOI has promised that that's something that's going to be reviewed for next year. It's just another year on. And in terms of now the current one, local authority house price, rent increase or not. Well, how can you put the rent increase up and up and up? People are struggling. There's Minister Thomas trickle up wealth. Well, actually, a lot of people would just be happy with the trickle down, the old traditional trickle down. And you're not seeing that and not seeing it. People are not feeling well off. They're not comfortable. They don't have spare income. They don't have, so that also impacts on the local economy. And I think there is confidence, and there's jobs. There's increasing numbers of jobs. There's more people paying tax. 500 people more, I think, at the last year on the previous year. There's a lot to celebrate in terms of the Department for Enterprise, where obviously I represent a sector. There's confidence, there's optimism, there's emerging sectors. I'm really excited about creative industries, particularly the digital area.
You kept all that, didn't you, from DED to Enterprise? Yeah. You just kept exactly the same portfolio?
Yeah, and it's now under the agency board system. So we have the Digital Agency Board, where we have private sector individuals coming in, forming policy, investigating, horizon scanning. Doing it's early days, but it's really cohesive group, really a lot of enthusiasm and energy there to take us forward.
Because you did lose one thing last year, didn't you? The children's champion.
I resigned.
Yeah, but that wasn't the last 12 months, wasn't it?
But that is also a big issue for me in terms of things that haven't improved. I'm actually, in terms of how the government's doing, I am quite impressed with the Health Minister, Health and Social Care, David Ashford. It seems happy to acknowledge where there is gaps in provision, where it hasn't maybe been right, and where he's looking to improve. And certainly the community care hubs and integrated care for social care and health, that would be pioneering and a pretty impressive thing if you can pull that off in this term.
Can we just go back to Children's Champion though? I mean, you resigned, and
that's because of the issues such as mental health.
Do you want it back now then?
No, because the remit has been narrowed so much that you're talking it's looked after children and vulnerable children. Well, who's vulnerable? All the people who are coming to me had issues. There were gaps in provision for mental health services for young people particularly. Now, I did ask a question about that. 822 children in mental health service. So do they count in the new remit? Because looked after children is 100 out of the 16,000 we have on the Isle of Man. And I was getting contact from principally parents, but some young people from amongst the whole population. Because a child has a parent doesn't mean they don't need a champion to resolve issues that maybe go across more than one department. Health department does seem to be acknowledging issues, gaps in provision, mental health service.
And that's where it's ended up, right, with David, isn't it? So
yeah, and it's also very open.
It's gone then, hasn't it? That role almost has gone because it's just part of health now, isn't it?
Well, no, the new Children's Champion, there's an important role to do to represent the interests of the looked after children. Very important group, but I would say, all children are potentially vulnerable, so why isn't it for all children? And aside from the mental health thing, the education is the opposite to health for me. It seems I'm banging against a brick wall, constantly trying to get information. They don't agree with league tables. Fine. We don't need league tables, but we do need some data. It shouldn't be a big issue to say, here's how our schools are doing really openly, but it's always not quite this, that and the other. Now, I did get some answers today, but then it's, you can't have that because you didn't ask it by the right name.
Oh. Welcome to. Well, you worked in government before. We went to MHK.
We are celebrating this new administration. It stands to be openness, open government.
How do you think you achieved? I mean, I'm not asking you to score yet. I'm asking the last year. What did you get? You be proud of? I mean, obviously the abortion thing. You're very keen on that.
Abortion reform bill. I mean, obviously, hats off to
Yeah.
Alex Allinson and the others who assisted get it through all its readings. That is now just awaiting the Legislative Council amendments to go through, which I'm sure will happen very shortly, and hopefully the new law will come in perhaps next year.
Yes.
But that is a huge achievement. If our main priority as parliamentarians is the passing of new legislation, bringing in new laws to the Isle of Man, then we did a good thing there. Never has such a small bill been mulled over with every line and every word.
And were you surprised how much, when it looked like it was ready to go at the beginning, and then it was being
No, it needed
picked
it.
and picked and picked up.
It's putting us ahead of a lot of other jurisdictions. It's the right laws for the Isle of Man, and there is a huge amount of support for that.
And against it as well. I mean, a lot of people don't want anything. Did you have a lot of problem with that? Did you personally get any sort of feedback?
In terms of the constituency, very, very little opposition. Okay. But also, I mean, that was representative, I think, across the House of Keys. The number of people with religious convictions and those who wanted, those views were expressed. Everything was sounded out and discussed in a very, I think that was one of the good days, good years of the Isle of Man.
And the way that Tynwald came together, and rather than going off to a committee, it was done and dusted.
The committee of the whole House in the Keys.
That was pretty interesting.
And then further revisions from the Legislative Council. That is how our Parliament works, and it worked well. So in terms of achievement from a parliamentary level, then that's a good thing, yes.
Okay. Now, how do you divide your time? Because the PAG was asking that question between the politics of the country, or the Isle of Man, and your constituents in Garff. Did you answer, and how did you answer?
I did, and my percentage on the constituency was very, very small, but it was it was something like 8%. It worked out.
Did you pull it out there, or did you actually go through things?
I went through my emails.
Was that? Were you shocked when you saw that number then?
Because at the time I was Children's Champion. So what's constituency and what's Children's Champion? And that's the Tynwald role. So that's like the government, and then I had a department role as well. And there's a lot of input at certain times with the department meetings and outside contact, and now the agency board. So no, I went through all my emails, my diary, my calendar, and worked out that actually this amount on the 2 months that I assessed
because
for them.
as you say, it will fluctuate all the time, usually. So,
but also in terms of the Children's Champion, I counted that. But some of those were constituents. But there were patterns emerging, and going into education again, we have a world-class education system. There are lots and lots of excellent schools, brilliant teachers. I haven't spoken to anybody who doesn't love their school, is very loyal to the school, and everyone, there may be errors or flaws across at sort of departmental level, but individually we have great schools. The issue is they're not very open. They don't agree with putting out certain data, so they block it. And I'm saying if it's open and it's all out there, there's nothing to hide, then we should be happy to publish.
This is a spin story at the end of the day. People, they put out these numbers, these great things, but they don't, whatever. It's government coming out there, and then they're taking even more people that used to be one of these communicators.
More time.
Yeah.
They're not taking on more. I think people have moved on and they're filling vacancies.
Okay.
But
do you know how it works? I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying, isn't it? You were on the other side of this, making the spin happen. Now I
was never a spin doctor. I was never a spin doctor because in the days I started at tourism in 1996, I was the only press officer in government. Central office didn't have one. The chief minister didn't have
amazing, isn't it?
A PR person.
Do you think that's the way it's going though?
But I think there is more expectation of announcements out of government. There's more expectation, there's more demand for news. We're 24-hour media society, but also there's the freedom of information request. There's more demand from the public for more information out of government. So you have to provide people to provide it to people.
What have you got planned this next 12 months? Have you got your eye on any particular thing, or are you just following?
Following up from the matters that I have in my inbox from being Children's Champion that are no longer in the remit that I'm happy to continue pursuing. One of those is a private members bill that I'm hoping to seek leave to introduce in October. I think I better wait and speak to members first before I announce it publicly.
But are you excited about it? Or
but I announced it. It's a bit of social legislation that I think is fairly important. And now going back to my manifesto, there were also other bits of social legislation such as 2P, transfer of operations, when a company or a government organisation is then put into the protection for the employees to get similar terms and conditions. I still think that there's a gap that we could do more for protection of ordinary people in the future. So that's something I've got my eye on in the long distance. The short term, there's one on sort of helping for family and family legislation, and in terms of politically, I'll look forward to the final reading of the abortion reform bill going through, and there's a lot of other things coming up. There's a communications bill. I think government hasn't actually got through as much legislation as it thought it was going to.
You like a fairer society. At the time of recording this in September, you've just been in the news about the Syrian refugees situation, which we tackled in another interview. Are we a fair, caring, loving society that you would think we should be yet?
Yes, I think the vast majority are. Not everybody's vocal about it. There's a huge amount of charities on the island, and a significant sums are raised for various different charities. Without question, the Isle of Man is generous and compassionate. I think social media and where it is, it's very easy for people to sound off about certain things.
Are you still doing your tweets about Jamie Oliver pies and things?
I do, and goats, and when I see 30 goats rampaging up the main road, I think that's a bit of a hazard, and perhaps that differ from an animal welfare point of view.
Have you curtailed a little bit, though, would you say?
I've added to I think I've put my description, politicians are people too. We have lives, we have family, we have wild goats, we have matters of international aid, we have domestic policy, we have the unfairness planning policy, the unfairness of your water rates, we have everything that you have in a society.
Let's have some scores then. You gave yourself 8 last year, one of our higher ones, and good on you for that. How do you think you've done this year?
In terms of what I thought I'd achieve, and in terms of the Children's Champion role changing and where I am now, I'd probably say 7.
Oh, you're dropping down.
Yeah, there's more. I think
there's more you can give.
I think there is so much going on. Like you said, it's everything from farming matters, agricultural, steam packet. There's volumes and volumes and volumes of reports that we need to read, legislation, explanations, and then meetings to discuss it further. There's aside from the reading, it's easy to become blinded by it all, and we need to pursue our own priorities a bit more, I think.
Now, the government, you were down in 3s, and you were up in 8s or 9s, I think, giving on everything. But I'm trying to give you just the chance of one score as an overall. You can obviously
explain
elaborate
it a little bit.
Yes.
I think you've heard me say I think the health minister is getting a grip on that, and that there are encouraging signs. Plus, he's very open to engage with backbenchers and accessible to have discussions with. Not all ministers are that accessible. In terms of government, I think they've been a bit slower. I said this situation where we're waiting for reports, we're waiting for reform of planning. Childhood obesity, that seems to be being tackled. Great Smile of Man campaign with the preschool oral hygiene. There are certain things that these were my hobby horses, and I'm really pleased to see those going. In terms of an overall score for government, about a 7.5.
So I think we've got about 6.5 for the last
I think about 7.5. They're carrying out I want more openness, I want more accountability, I want more speed of getting through the policies that we've all signed up for.
So quick ones, are you happy where you are in your departments? Are you looking forward to becoming a minister? Do you want to become a minister? Same question as last time. I'm not expecting to become a minister anytime soon.
Well, I'm happy to be a backbencher. I think I'm perfectly happy with my constituency colleague. I think we are a good partnership, that we work well together for the benefit of Garff, and we have our own issues that we're pursuing separately to that as well.
All right. The big question I've got to ask, because I see you in Tynwald once a month and you always take your own water in your once usable plastic thing. I'm sure you're going to change that, but you can't drink their water. I mean, why do you bring your own water?
Well, I don't. But I drink tons of it. I drink 2 litres in a day.
Well, they're all drinking their sort of lemonade. I know, and things.
but
so funny.
Just considering where you are, you sit right next to me at the press bench. Yeah. The messenger would be crossing you every 5 minutes to come and every interview, every question, response.
Recyclable plastic. You've obviously.
No, I know. I have you not.
I'm not having to go you, but I know it's one that everyone's got a passion for, and I'm sure you have.
I am also seeking in government. We still have a canteen with a fridge full of plastic bottles. I'm still calling on DEFA Minister, Environment Minister, to put a receptacle there to collect the plastic bottles so they can be properly recycled.